So let's do a quick story time. So in the past week, I've been experiencing quite a bunch of synchronicities like crazy. Like thinking about something and it's showing up immediately, something sitting in front of my face, and the thought pop crossed my mind, and then 5 minutes later I'm watching the show and the thing pops up, or singing a song around a house that I haven't even thought of in forever. And then like an hour later, somebody's playing it, across the way at a party and I can hear it, stuff like that. So these are two really good stories, right? And you can watch me make some food because I love self-care, and one of my most favorite things to do with self-care is cooking really good food for myself. So nonetheless, so this first story, about a week and a half ago, I was at the park, and I do running and walking every single morning. And I was kind of exhausted because I just recently come off a 3-day fast. And even though it's healthy and all that, you still get dehydrated. It's been 100+ degrees, lately. So I was kind of exhausted. So I just gave myself permission to stop at the benches, which is something I never do because there are benches all along the walkway. So I'm going on this trail and I'm, doing my thing. And I get to this area where normally, it's a zigzag, like all the way down a large prairie. I mean, it's vast. And, but there's a bench at every landing. So on my way back up, I was just like, I'm just going to stop at these benches because I can't get dehydrated. So I sit at the bench and I'm just kind of like, that pose you get into if you're sitting on the ground when you're a kid and you're waiting to play a game. I guess kind of like with your knees up and your arms wrapped around the front of your knees. And to keep your knees from flopping open, you kind of grasp your hands together possibly. So anyway, kind of just like sitting like that because I was on a bench. And, it's a lot of people going through there. It's a really busy park. But it got quiet for a while. And in that moment, I sat there and I was looking out into the sun and I was looking at all of the land and the beautiful greenery and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really nice. So then I just zoned out, right? I sat there way longer than what I was thinking I would. I zoned out. And then about, a couple of minutes later, this guy comes running by and he like takes his earbud out his ear, which is rare because I really don't talk to anyone. Nobody really talks to other people that they're not with, because you got your headphones on, your earbuds. And so he took his earbud out. So I was like, oh, he must be saying something. And so I pulled my, headphone to the side and he was like, it's beautiful, right? Right? It's beautiful. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's perfect. It's amazing. I was, just looking out with him. He said, no, your piece. He said, it's so beautiful to see. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, he said, you look so damn peaceful. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. He said, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Have a good day. And he put his little earbud back in and he kept running on the trail. And I was like, wow. Now, when I tell you, that is one of the best compliments I've ever received. And it had absolutely nothing to do with being sexy or being beautiful or being, a certain height or weight or somebody's type or skin tone or whatever. It didn't have anything to do with that. He recognized my energy. And when he said that, I really, really noticed. I was like, dang, I am real peaceful. Like I hadn't even really paid attention. And so it was so nice. And I feel like that's a very fun manifestation because it goes along with the treatment that I've been getting when I'm out and about in public. Like if I say 100% interactions with people, maybe 97% are beautiful. You know what I mean? And that's more than enough. And so the second story, so that's really fun, The second, and I have a life coach now, which I'll talk about in another video, but like we've been at it for a minute. It's like my 5th session. And he said that, when I was telling him about that, he was completely flabbergasted about the compliment on the peacefulness. And he said, well, I can see it too. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? Because a lot of times everything we want to manifest is always so tangible, right? But when we get those manifestations, the ones that hit us at our core, the ones that truly speak to who we are as spiritual human beings, that's when, we kind of get touched, right? So then the second story is about a week before that, I was at the same park because, I'm there all the time. And I'm at the park and I have my driver's license and my debit card. in those little pockets, like those yoga pants. I wear those to the park, workout pants, and they have the phone case on the phone holder on the thighs, which is a very great place to have a phone for me. It's very nice. So anyway, normally on one side I keep my keys and then my debit card and driver's license, just to be having those things with me while I'm out. And then the other side I'll put my phone, but I'm taking my phone in and out constantly, so I don't like anything in the pocket with it. Well, that day, for whatever reason, I stuck the cards and the ID in the pocket where I put the phone. And I kept telling myself, I was like, put it on the other side, because if you take your phone in and out of your pocket, your ID might fall out when you're like zoned out and you're not paying attention. Well, of course, me and my, spaced out ways sometimes, I absolutely forgot. And sure enough, by the time I got back to my truck when I was ready to go, the only thing in my pocket was my debit card. And at first, it's like a weird feeling came over me. I was like, ugh. You know that feeling when something goes wrong? It's like not a heart drop, but like, dang it. It's like, you want it to be different, but it's just a fact that you trying to see me. I try to accept bad things really, really fast because I just want to get it over with. So, but you can't force it. You got to go through the motions. So as I was walking, I had about, let's say like a quarter of a mile to get back to the truck. So yeah, I noticed before I got there. So as I was walking, I was like, there's nothing you can do about it. I was like, what about my identity? I was like, do people still identity like that? Like, what is the danger? I was like, I need to Google lost my license. What can happen? And I was just thinking about all these things, trying to I went directly into this tight, scrambling, reactive scarcity mind, for 10 seconds. And then I just dropped it. I was like, God, I don't have time for that. I said, you know what? It had the wrong address on it anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and order another one. And so I got in the car and just went about my life. And so I wound up going home, ordering a new ID that night, with the new address on it, which was great. And I was like, done with that. And so the next day I'm on the treadmill in the morning and I receive an email from my work email address, or one of them anyway, and a professional email address. And I was like, it said, hi, my husband was jogging at the park the other day and he found your ID on the ground, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, when I tell you this park is vast, it has thousands of people that come to it every day. I would say at least between 2,000 and 4,000 people. That's a rough estimate because it is super busy and it goes on to different areas. You can ride bikes, you can skateboard. And so I kind of take, different areas sometimes. I don't go the same way all the time. And so I was like, I don't know which way I went. And all these days are merging together. And I was like, I don't know where I went. I was like, and it's 3.5 miles back. I was like, I can't go that far and retrace my steps. I was like, whatever. But for someone to find that, and she said, oh, great. It's you. Just send me your address and I'll go ahead and, mail it to you. And I emailed her my address. And 2 days later, the driver's license was in the mail. And I'm like, wow, what a blessing. It was such a reminder. It was such a testimony to the fact that when something is supposed to be in our lives, when we're supposed to have access to something, or when something is supposed to belong to us, it will find its way to us no matter what. We don't have to do too much, So like they say, I tied my camel. I think, well, my parents are Muslim, so they said camels, right? Well, I think that was but what they say, tie your donkey or something. A lot of people know that term, but you tie up your horses. People say that all the time too. Tied them up, put them in the barn, all that kind of stuff. I did that by ordering a new license, but the act of generosity and care and the time to take, the ID home, and she covered the front of it so the numbers could be blocked out and sent it to me, with, covering over it, and she double wrapped it. Wow. And I was like, okay, so yes, I couldn't find her on anything online, but I'm definitely sending her a gift card tomorrow. And I was like, how can I? And I was like, okay, her address is there. But just the idea that it reminded me that we don't have to scramble. What if I had set the whole day wondering and worrying and just going through all kind of changes, and it was never going to be bad? It was always in the hands of the person who found it, and they were always going to be a part of that story. And my worrying and my distraughtness and my falling apart, or either my anxiety, was never going to change that outcome. I just would have found a false relief in the item showing up and then me relaxing, as opposed to me first finding that feeling while I'm walking around and letting go and finding that center and finding that peace. And the beauty just unfolds, right? I was like, I ain't got to feel bad about that. I'm not about to. So those are my just fun little story time things I want to share. I hope you enjoyed this video. And my food is beautiful, so I guess it's time to eat. Keep on manifesting magic and have a wonderful, wonderful day.